telling you a laikam war matula he wambar akatu.
Welcome to the deep dive. You know, you've sent us a really fascinating collection of sources this time, all focusing on, well, the whole world of off-grid self-sufficiency.
Yeah, it's quite a mix. We're looking at water, energy, food, even livestock, finances, skills.
Yeah.
It really covers the gamut.
It does, and our mission today really is to kind of sift through all of this, pull out the absolute key insights, the practical takeaways. We want to help you get a real handle on what off-grid living actually involves.
Exactly. Sort of a shortcut through all the information. We'll connect the dots, highlight what really matters based on what these sources are telling us.
Think of it as us doing the heavy lifting, so you get the essential knowledge without feeling totally buried in details. We're aiming for clarity on the realities, the challenges, maybe even a few surprising facts along the way.
We'll definitely be digging into securing clean water, reliable energy, how to actually produce food, manage animals perhaps, and navigate those, financial and practical hurdles.
It's the whole picture, from getting safe water, dependable power, all the way to food on the table from your own land, maybe animals, and the know-how you need. And honestly, going through this, some really crucial, maybe unexpected details definitely popped out. Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with something absolutely fundamental. Water. Your sources had a lot to say about getting potable water off-grid.
They did. And it's critical, right? No city water means you're responsible. The core idea seems to be a layered approach. Filtration, purification, and then sustainable practices to manage it all.
Okay, layers. Let's start with filtration. What are the must-knows there?
Right. Filtration is basically your first line of defense.
Right.
Think sediment, bigger particles, gravity filters, like Sawyer or Survivor Pro-X. They're mentioned a lot. They're good for bacteria, protozoa, stuff that makes you sick.
How do they work? Tiny holes.
Yeah, exactly. Really tiny pores, like 0.01 to 0.1 microns. They physically block those bugs. But, and this is important, they don't usually catch viruses. Viruses are just too small.
Okay, so not a complete solution on their own. What else?
Well, you've got multi-stage pump filters. They often combine a sediment filter for the chunky stuff with activated carbon. The carbon helps grab chemicals, improves taste and odor.
Better, but still not viruses.
You're not. For viruses, you often need to step up to something like reverse osmosis, or RO. NU Aqua's 7-stage system came up as an example.
7 stages, wow.
Yes, pretty thorough. Forces water through a superfine membrane. Claims 99% removal of contaminants, lead, fluoride, and viruses. This one even adds minerals back in.
Ah, because RO can strip everything out.
Exactly. The downside, RO systems tend to have a higher upfront cost. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Depends on your water source, what you're worried about.
Makes sense. Different tools for different jobs. Okay, so filtration gets the big stuff. Purification sounds like the next crucial step for safety.
Absolutely. Purification targets the microscopic stuff filtration might miss, especially those viruses. UV treatment is a big one here.
Ultraviolet light.
Yep. You can get portable UV pens or bigger systems integrated into your plumbing. The UV light basically scrambles the DNA of pathogens, bacteria, viruses, protozoa, kills about 99.99% of them, and no chemicals involved.
That sounds pretty good. Chemical-free is appealing.
It is, but chemical options exist too. Tablets like potable aqua using chlorine dioxide or iodine, they're mentioned mostly for emergency backup. Reliable, but maybe not for everyday use.
Right, and then there's the old standby boiling.
Can't forget boiling.
Yep.
A good rolling boil for 1 to 3 minutes kills pretty much everything. Simple, effective. But
it takes fuel.
Exactly. It's fuel intensive. And if you're off grid, managing fuel is always a big consideration. So maybe more of a backup plan or for small amounts.
Okay. Now, the sources also mentioned some more advanced techniques. Sounded kind of futuristic.
Some of it is pretty cutting edge. Solar distillation, for example, using the sun's heat to evaporate water, leaving impurities behind, then condensing the clean water.
Simple concept.
It is. And interestingly, one source mentioned you can boost the efficiency of a simple solar still by 43% just by adding, get this, waste bottle caps, crown corks. They help absorb more heat.
Clever reuse.
Yeah. Then you get into the really high-tech stuff. Nanophotonics-enabled solar membrane distillation, NESMD. Uses nanoparticles heated by the sun for desalination.
Okay, now you're losing me slightly. Nanoparticles.
Yeah, it's advanced. Think tiny particles that get super hot in sunlight to drive the distillation.
Yeah. And
even biomimetic evaporator systems designed to mimic natural processes, using things like 3D carbon fiber arrays. They're showing really impressive results for cleaning up brackish or saltwater.
Wow, so serious innovation happening there. But for most people day to day, it's probably more about sustainable practices.
Absolutely. Rainwater harvesting is huge.
Yeah.
The sources stress needing significant storage, like brine 1,000-gallon tanks or more, and using first flush diverters.
First flush, what's that?
It's a simple device that diverts the first bit of rain that washes off your roof. That first flush carries the most gunk dust, leaves, bird droppings. So you divert that away, then collect the cleaner water that follows.
Smart. How much water can you actually collect?
The rule of thumb mentioned is about 300 gallons for every inch of rain falling on a 500 square foot roof.
Yeah.
So it adds up if you get decent rainfall.
Okay. What about reusing water? Gray water.
Gray water recycling came up too. That's water from showers, laundry sinks, relatively clean. The key point was use it only for irrigation and only for non-edible plants after some basic filtering. You don't want that stuff on your vegetables.
Right, makes sense. And testing. I assume testing is critical.
Non-negotiable. You have to test your water regularly, at least annually. Check for E. coli, nitrates, heavy metals, whatever might be a concern in your area. You just don't know what's in it unless you test.
Good point. Can't assume it's safe. Okay, what about backups and keeping things running? Because stuff breaks, right?
Always. Yeah. Redundancy is key. Keep spare filters, ceramic elements, carbon cartridges, whatever your system uses. Have them on hand.
Simple enough. What about really dirty water? Muddy.
Yeah, pre-treatment helps a lot there. Let muddy water settle in a separate container first. Or use alum. It's a powder that makes tiny particles clump together so they settle out faster. This saves your main filters from clogging up so quickly.
Good tip. And powering pumps.
Solar-powered pumps are a go-to for off-grid, especially ones with efficient BLDC motors, brushless DC. They use less energy, which is vital when you're running off solar panels.
So it's not just the filter, it's the whole system working together. Did the sources have a sort of pro tip for water?
Yeah, a really important one. Combine methods. Don't rely on just filtration or just purification. Use both. Mechanical filtration first, then purification like UV or maybe chemical for backup. That gives you layers of safety.
Filter, then purify. Got it.
And always use food-grade containers for storing your clean water. Don't want plastic leaching nasty stuff back in. For high water use, say 300 plus gallons a day, think bigger. Multi-tank systems, pre-filters before the main tanks, maybe a central UV unit treating all the water going into the house.
Okay. And there was a table summarizing the methods.
Right, a quick comparison. Gravity filters. Good for bacteria protozoa, bad for viruses, best for relatively clean sources. RO plus UV, most comprehensive, removes almost everything but higher cost. Solar stills. Great for salty water, but slow, low volume. Boiling, effective kill, but fuel hungry.
So no single magic bullet.
Nope. It really underlines that you need to tailor your system. Your water source, your energy, your budget, it all plays a part in choosing the right combination.
All right, that's a really solid overview of water. Super important. Now let's switch gears to another absolute essential, food production. The sources definitely highlighted some significant challenges here.
They did. You know, the dream of growing everything yourself is powerful, but the reality involves tackling some real hurdles. Invasive species, keeping your soil healthy, and dealing with wildlife. Those were the big three.
Okay, invasive species first. Japanese beetles sounded like a real nightmare in the sources.
Oh, they are. Nasty little things. They apparently munch on over 300 types of plants, fruits, veggies, flowers, and they don't just nibble. They skeletonize leaves. Eat everything but the veins.
Destructive.
Very. And they release pheromones, which basically tells all their buddies, hey, good food over here. So you get these massive congregations. The Michigan blueberry farm example was stark 40% crop loss, even with insecticides.
40%, that's devastating for a farm or even a homesteader. So what can you actually do about them off-grid?
Several strategies came up. Trap crops, planting things like borage or 4 o'clocks nearby that the beetles prefer. Lure them away from your prized tomatoes.
Sacrificial plants, basically.
Kinda, yeah. Then biological controls. There's a fungus, Metarhizium brunium, that attacks the grubs in the soil. And nookie spore disease, another soil treatment. But the fungus has had mixed results in the field, and milky spore takes like 2 or 3 years to really build up and be effective.
So not quick fixes.
Not usually.
Yeah.
Physical barriers can work fine mesh netting, like 0.25 to 0.5 millimeter mesh draped over plants. Keep them off physically.
Okay. What about sprays?
Chemical options. Neem oil can disrupt their feeding and growth, but you often have to reapply it a lot, especially after rain. Stronger insecticides like pyrethroids work, but they can harm pollinators, bees, which you definitely don't want to do.
Yeah, that's a big downside.
So the takeaways seem to be an integrated approach. Maybe some trap crops, netting on key plants, maybe introducing beneficial nematodes or milky spore for the long haul, not just one solution.
Sounds like constant vigilance. Okay, challenge number 2, soil depletion. That feels like a slower, maybe sneakier problem.
It really is. If you just grow the same thing in the same spot year after year monocropping, you just suck the nutrients right out, especially nitrogen and organic matter. The sources suggested yields can drop 20, even 50% over just 5 years.
Wow. How do you know if your soil's getting depleted?
Signs include weird pH levels and compaction. The soil gets packed down hard.
Yeah.
Like if the bulk density is over 1.6 grams per cubic centimeter, roots have a really hard time growing, water doesn't soak in.
Yeah.
It's just bad news for plants.
Okay, so how do you fight that? How do you keep soil healthy off-grid?
Cover crops are huge. Planting things like winter rye after your main harvest adds biomass, protects the soil, suppresses weeds. Legumes like crimson clover are amazing. They pull nitrogen right out of the air and add it to the soil, like free fertilizer.
Cover crops, got it.
Crop rotation's another classic. Don't plant the same family of crops in the same spot repeatedly. A simple 3-year rotation might be legumes 1 year, then brassicas like cabbage or broccoli, then maybe grains or root vegetables. Mixes things up, breaks pest cycles too.
Makes sense, like the 3 sisters planting.
Yeah, exactly. Intercropping, like the 3 sisters. Corn, beans, squashed together is another great technique. They benefit each other. And then amendments, adding things to the soil. Biochar came up. It's like charcoal, helps hold water and nutrients. Compost tea adds beneficial microbes. Good quality compost, obviously.
So actively feeding the soil, not just taking from it.
That's the core idea. Sustainable agriculture relies on giving back to the soil.
Right. Okay, third big challenge, wildlife conflicts. Deer, bears, raccoons. They like gardens too.
They definitely do. And rodents, birds. The piece is estimated you could lose 10 to 30% of your harvest after it's grown, just to wildlife. The Alaskan example was pretty specific, losing over $2,000 a year in poultry to ravens and foxes.
Ouch. That hurts. What are the effective deterrents, especially if you're trying to live, harmoniously?
It's usually about layers of defense. Structural stuff first. Good fencing is key. Electric fencing for bigger animals like bears or deer needs to be high enough, like 4 feet minimum, and have a good zap, 7,000 volts or more. For stored food, sturdy metal bins, 14-gauge steel or thicker, are essential to keep rodents out.
So physical barriers, what else?
Behavioral tactics. Motion-activated lights or sprinklers can sometimes scare off nocturnal raiders, sometimes. Guard animals are an option. Llamas or donkeys are surprisingly effective at protecting poultry flocks from predators.
Llamas, really?
Apparently. And for rodents specifically, simple traps work. The 5-gallon bucket trap partially filled with soapy water they fall into, or encouraging predators putting up owl boxes. One owl can eat thousands of rodents a year, working with nature's pest control.
Okay, so a mix of barriers, scare tactics, and even animal allies. The sources also mentioned the cost of not doing these things right.
Yeah, they put some numbers on it, like Japanese beetle damage might cost you $500 an acre, but mitigation like netting and neem oil might only be $200. Bear raids costing $2,000 plus FAE, while an electric fence is maybe $1,500 up front. Soil depletion is harder to price immediately, but the lost yield is huge over time, whereas cover crop seed is relatively cheap, maybe $150 an acre.
So prevention really does pay off.
It seems that way. Investing a bit up front in fencing, soil health, pest management saves a lot of loss and heartache later.
Were there any sort of overarching strategies recommended for managing all these food challenges together?
Yeah, a few key things. Preemptive soil testing test before you have problems. Know your baseline pH, nutrients, organic matter. Do it annually. Pest forecasting, like tracking growing degree days to predict when Japanese beetles will emerge so you can be ready.
Growing degree days.
It's a way to measure heat accumulation. Insects develop based on temperature, so tracking GDD helps predict their life cycle stages. And community collaboration, working with neighbors on things like trapping invasive pests. More effective if everyone does it. Long-term resilience comes from integrating strategies like using that metarhizium fungus with trap crops for beetles, or using rotational grazing with livestock to build soil fertility naturally.
Okay, that makes sense. Building a whole resilient system. Now, shifting from challenges to opportunities, the sources talked about choosing profitable crops, where self-sufficiency meets potential income.
Right, because let's face it, off-grid living still requires some money, and some crops have potential for high returns. Saffron was mentioned, an incredible price per acre, like $10,000 to $25,000, but
there's always a but.
Always. Saffron needs a very specific dry climate, and harvesting is super labor-intensive, picking tiny stigmas by hand. Microgreens were another one.
Ah, yeah, those are popular.
Very. High profit margin, like 60% plus, and really quick turnaround. You can grow them in small spaces, even indoors vertically. Gourmet mushrooms too, oyster, shiitake, can generate significant income, maybe 50K, 100K a year, from a relatively small, controlled indoor space.
Mushrooms seem like a good niche.
They can be. Garlic is another solid one. Good margin, stores well, always in demand. Lavender is booming the whole essential oils aromatherapy market. Global market projected to be huge.
So several potentially lucrative options. Anything more? Niche or longer term?
Yep. Ginseng, especially wild simulated or forest grown, can fetch hundreds of dollars a pound, $400, $800 even. But it takes years to grow, like 5 to 10 years. Truffle's even more valuable, $800, $1,500 a pound sometimes. But incredibly tricky. Need specific trees, specific soil, trained dogs to find them. Takes years to establish, if ever.
High risk, high reward.
Definitely. Goji berries were mentioned too. Popular health food, relatively hardy, maybe $20, $30 a pound.
What about more staple type crops? Can they be profitable or at least efficient for surplus?
Quinoa came up growing demand. Gluten-free, protein-rich, fairly drought-tolerant. Hemp is interesting, lots of uses fiber, CBD oil, but regulations are complex and vary wildly, and profitability depends on the end market.
Right, hemp is tricky legally.
Can be. Emerging opportunities mentioned included vertical farming using way less water, high yields in small spaces. And herbs, fresh culinary or medicinal herbs, often have good margins, 40-60%.
So lots of possibilities, but you really need to do your homework.
Absolutely. Know your local market is their demand. Think about value-added products, and you turn berries into jam, herbs into tinctures. Choose crops suited to your specific climate and soil, and be realistic about the labor involved.
What seemed like the best balance for maybe a smaller scale homesteader?
The sources seem to lean towards microgreens, mushrooms, and garlic as having a good mix of relatively lower startup needs and potentially decent quicker returns. Saffron and truffles are more like lottery tickets. Huge potential payoff, but much higher risk and longer wait.
Okay, great overview of potential moneymakers. Now let's zoom out a bit. Essential tips for making off-grid work overall. Practical stuff.
Right, the foundations. Land selection is paramount. Need reliable water access, well, potential, springs, good rainfall for harvesting, soil quality tested, legal stuff check zoning. Can you actually live off-grid there? Are composting toilets allowed? Alternative energy permits? You got to know the rules.
Don't want to buy land and find out you can't build what you want.
Exactly. Energy systems, solar PV is the usual starting point. Scalable, start with maybe 1-3 kilowatts, but definitely need backups, propane generator, maybe a small wind turbine if you've got the wind. And efficiency is king. LED lights, Energy Star appliances. Use less power in the first place.
And water systems, tying back to our earlier discussion.
Yep. Rainwater harvesting, big tanks, 1,000 plus gallons. First flush of diverters. Remember that 300 gallons per inch per 500 square foot roof estimate. Gray water for non-edible irrigation, properly filtered. And reliable purification, Berkey filters, UV systems, something proven.
Okay. What about the actual food growing and animal raising side, the core homesteading stuff?
Permaculture principles came up a lot. Designing systems that work with nature, creating plant guilds like planting fruit trees with clover underneath to fix nitrogen, maybe basil to deter pests, prioritizing perennials, asparagus, berries, fruit trees, plant once, harvest for years, less work long term.
Smart. And livestock.
Chickens are often the gateway animal. Eggs, meat, pest control. Need about 2 to 4 skew feet per bird in the coop. Rabbits, fast breeders, good meat, amazing manure for compost. Bees, crucial pollinators, plus honey. Langstroth hives are pretty standard, manageable.
And preserving all that food you grow.
Essential skill. Canning, need a pressure canner for low-acid foods like vegetables and meats to kill botulism spores. Dehydration, solar or electric dehydrators work well for fruits, veggies, herbs. Root cellars need cool temps, 32-40 degrees in, and high humidity around 90% for storing root veggies, apples, etc.
What about shelter and infrastructure?
Tiny homes are popular under 1,000 skotos each, usually. More affordable, easier to heat and cool. Designing with passive solar is smart, big, south-facing windows. Thermal mass, like a stone floor to absorb heat. Using reclaimed or natural materials, salvaged wood, straw bale, cob lowers cost and impact.
Heating and cooling efficiently seems key.
Definitely. Good wood stoves are common. Rocket mass heaters were mentioned as being super efficient, using way less wood. Designing for cross ventilation helps cool passively in summer. Waste management, composting toilets are a big one. Separate makes popular models. Or DIY sawdust toilets work, but check local codes. Septic systems have rules too. Recycling is important. Repurpose glass and metal. Avoid PVC plastic. Use HDPE for water tanks, it's safer.
It really sounds like skills and community are just as important as the physical stuff.
Hugely important.
Yeah.
Building barter networks, trading your surplus eggs for someone else's firewood or mechanical skills, taking workshops, learn blacksmithing, welding, herbal medicine, things you might need.
And being prepared for emergencies.
Absolutely. Medical prep, good first aid kit, maybe antibiotics, sutures if you know how to use them, trauma supplies. Stop the bleed training is invaluable. Security motion lights, strong doors and windows. Having the right tools, good hand tools, broad fork, scythe, maybe a grain mill. Solar gadgets like a jackery for portable power. Reliable water pumps, manual and solar DC. And thinking about climate resilience, choosing drought-tolerant crops like amaranth or tepary beans, using good insulation like sheep's wool or recycled denim in your house.
Okay, this next part was really interesting. The sources included ethical considerations for livestock based on hadiths. That's not your typical homesteading advice.
No, it's a specific perspective from Islamic tradition, and it has a really important ethical layer. The core message is about mercy and kindness towards animals in all interactions. Even slaughter, it emphasizes, should be done humanely, providing basics like water, food, comfort that's stressed. And there are warnings against being harsh or neglectful. Ungentle shepherds are called the worst of shepherds.
So a strong focus on animal welfare. And it went beyond just daily care into financial duties.
Yes, the concept of zakat. It's an obligatory charity in Islam. If your livestock reach a certain number, the nisab, you're required to give a portion in charity each year. For sheep, it's 1 sheep annually if you own between 40 and 120. More if you have more.
So a religious tax or tithe based on livestock wealth.
Kind of, yeah. And neglecting zakat is considered a serious offense with consequences described in the text. There are also specific rules like not trying to cheat the system by temporarily combining or separating flocks right before zakat is due, and invoking Allah's name during lawful slaughter. The overall theme is profound responsibility. Kindness is rewarded, cruelty punished.
And there was a mention of sheep having significance in turbulent times.
Right. There's a hadith suggesting that during times of fitna, widespread trials, or turmoil, owning sheep and retreating to the mountains or areas with rainfall would be a good way to protect one's faith and livelihood. Sheep as a symbol of self-reliance, a way to sustain yourself away from chaos.
Interesting. Self-sufficiency as a spiritual protection strategy.
In that context, yes. It's important to note, though, one specific story, sometimes circulated about sheep eating a verse of scripture, isn't considered authentically established by mainstream scholars. The main takeaways are: prioritize animal welfare, fulfill zakat obligations if applicable, conduct slaughter ethically, and consult knowledgeable scholars for specific guidance.
Okay, shifting from ethics back to practicalities. Debunking food production myths. Sounds like it's easy to get tripped up by romantic ideas.
Very easy. Myth number 1, underestimating livestock labor. Chickens seem easy, right?
Okay.
But it's daily egg collection, daily water checks, walking them up securely every night. The source mentioned a homesteader in Virginia losing 15 hens because one latch wasn't secured. Predators are relentless.
15 hens. Wow, what about goats? They seem popular.
Goats are great, but they're escape artists. Need really good fencing, 4 to 5 feet high woven wire, maybe electric strands too. They test boundaries constantly. They have quirks. Young bucks might need horn guards to avoid injuring each other or you. Automation can help nipple waterers for chickens, mean less daily filling. Solar fence chargers keep the zap on the goat fence reliably. Rotational grazing is also key. Moves them to fresh pasture, helps control parasites.
Okay, so livestock isn't just set it and forget it. Myth number 2, caloric density. You can grow lots of food that doesn't actually feed you.
Exactly. You could have a gorgeous garden full of lettuce and radishes, but very few actual calories. Relying too heavily on low-calorie greens and neglecting staples like potatoes, corn, beans, that could lead to actual malnutrition.
Yeah.
The comparison was stark. An acre of beans might give you 1.5 to 2 million calories. An acre of lettuce, way, way less.
So you could starve surrounded by green leaves.
Pretty much. The main family needing aid because their garden wasn't producing enough energy was a cautionary tale. The solution: plan your planting with calories in mind. A rough guide was like 60% staples, potatoes, corn, squash, beans, 30% nutrient-dense veggies, kale, carrots, cabbage, and maybe 10% luxury items, lettuce, herbs, etc. Maximize calorie yield per square foot. The Three Sisters planting method is good for this too.
603010. Okay, that's a useful guideline. Myth number 3, Food preservation failures. Growing it is only half the battle.
Absolutely critical. You can lose a huge chunk of your harvest, 30–50% even, if you don't preserve it right. Grains are a big one. Store them too damp, above 14% moisture. And you get mold. Mold produces mycotoxins, dangerous stuff. Fats go rancid if exposed to heat and air. Lard has a lower smoke point, shorter shelf life than, say, coconut oil stored in dark glass. Adding rosemary extract can help preserve fats naturally.
And canning. Botulism is the big fear there, right?
Huge fear and a real risk. Low-acid foods, vegetables, meats, anything with a pH above 4.6 must be pressure canned. Boiling water bath canning isn't hot enough to kill botulism spores.
Yeah.
You need 240 degrees air, which only a pressure canner provides for the right amount of time, 200 minutes depending on the food. The Idaho botulism case from improperly canned venison was mentioned. People get seriously ill or die from this.
Scary stuff. What's the fix?
Knowledge and the right equipment. Dry grains thoroughly, down to 12% moisture using solar dehydrators or other methods. Store fats correctly. Get a reliable pressure canner like a Presto 23 quart or an All-American, and follow tested recipes and instructions exactly. Don't wing it with canning safety. The Montana grain loss due to bad seals also highlights that even simple storage needs attention to detail.
It really sounds like the cost of ignorance, as the sources put it, can be incredibly high financially and health-wise.
For sure. Losing livestock to predators, having your grain stores ruined by mold, getting sick from bad food, it adds up. Advanced strategies can help mitigate risks. Automated coop doors, GPS collars for tracking livestock, using calorie calculator apps for crop planning, employing oxygen absorbers in Mylar bags for truly long-term storage, building a proper root cellar, cool, humid, ventilated, and having backups for the backups, like airtight buckets with gamma lids for grain, and a good manual grain grinder in case the power's out.
Okay. Moving on to another area where gaps can cause major problems. Critical skills, beyond just gardening and canning.
Yeah, this is about skills that can be life or death, or at least property saving. Medical emergency preparedness is huge. Being far from help means you are the first responder. Mismanaging trauma, doing CPR wrong, less than 2 inches deep has way lower survival rates. Misusing medications like antibiotics, these are serious risks. The rattlesnake bite fatality in Montana underscores this.
So what's the solution? Become a doctor.
Not quite. But getting training. Wilderness First Responder, WFR courses, Stop the Bleed classes. Having the right gear, comprehensive trauma kits, not just Band-Aids. Knowing your protocols. What do you do for specific emergencies? Practicing the monthly drills. Having an evacuation plan. Maybe using telemedicine options if you have connectivity.
Okay, that makes sense. Be prepared. Practice. What about mechanical skills? Stuff breaking.
Essential. Generators fail often. Simple things like dirty carbs or old spark plugs cause most problems. Well, pumps have issues, capacitors, pressure switches, vehicles break down. If you can't fix your basic equipment, you're stuck. The Alaska freezer failure due to a solar controller going bad, that meant losing a lot of stored food.
Right, can't just call AAA easily.
Nope. So, learning basic small engine repair, how to use a multimeter to diagnose electrical problems, keeping a good inventory of spare parts for critical systems, generator parts, solar controller, pump parts, and doing preventative maintenance religiously. Monthly checks, rotating fuel so it doesn't go bad.
And food preservation skills, again, highlighted as a critical gap.
Worth repeating because the consequences are severe. Botulism from bad canning, mold from incomplete drying. Fruits need to get below 130 degrees of air, generally. Losing nutrients from improper techniques like blanching, you can lose over half the vitamins if you do it wrong. The Idaho venison botulism case again drives home the risk.
So, training, equipment, protocols.
Exactly. Get certified training if you can. USDA canning guides are essential. Calibrate your dehydrator. Use reliable equipment like good canners and dehydrators. Test pH for wire bath canning. Use oxygen absorbers for dry goods. Know the science behind it.
These skill gaps clearly carry big risks. How do people bridge them realistically?
Community is key here. Skill swaps. I'll teach you basic plumbing if you teach me bread making. Apprenticeships. Learn from someone experienced. Using modular systems helps easier to swap out a broken part. Building a library of good repair manuals like the Backyard Mechanic. And practice. Do monthly preservation drills, not just when you have a huge harvest.
Okay. Now, finance. The often harsh reality check for off-gridders. It's not always cheaper, is it?
Often. It's definitely not, especially up front. Hidden costs bite you. Soil amendments, we talked about needing them. Lime to fix pH might be $50–200 a ton, and you might need several tons per acre. Compost costs money or a lot of time and effort. Microbial inoculants aren't free. The Vermont homesteader spending $3,200 unexpectedly on biochar and rock dust. that happens.
Wow. Well, that's equipment.
Big one. Solar charge controllers don't last forever, maybe 5-7 years, and cost $150, $500 or more to replace. Well, pumps, a good DC solar pump could be $800 to $1,000, way more than a standard AC pump. Tractors, if you have one. An engine overhaul is thousands. Budgeting 15-20% of your equipment's value annually for maintenance and repairs is a smart move suggested by this source.
And fuel costs?
Yep. Running a diesel generator can cost $3.50 to $7 per hour. Heating with wood, you might need 5-10 cords a year, and a cord can cost $200, $400 or more if you buy it. Alternatives like those super efficient rocket mass heaters can drastically cut wood use, maybe by 90%, but they have an upfront cost too.
Okay, so managing expenses is tricky. What about making money off-grid? Also not always easy.
Definitely presents challenges. Remote work sounds great, but you need reliable internet. Starlink is an option, but it's $120 a month plus $600 for the dish. And you need enough solar power to run your laptop and modem all day, maybe 300 W of panels plus battery just for that, selling farm products. Niche stuff like mushrooms or medicinal herbs can work, but reaching customers can be hard. CSAs sound good, but delivery costs can eat your profits, easily $100 plus a week just in fuel and time for a 50-mile radius.
And the land itself. Potential financial traps there too.
Oh yeah. Accessibility is huge. Does the property have road access? Building a gravel road can cost $10K, $25K per quarter mile. Winter access, will you be snowed in? Plowing costs $1 or $3K a year, easily. Soil toxicity testing is crucial before buying. Basic tests are cheap, but heavy metal tests cost more. Remediation could be thousands, even tens of thousands per acre.
And zoning and permits again.
Always check zoning. Minimum acreage for livestock. Permit costs for septic, often $2,000 plus. Restrictions on building types, it all adds up. The cost comparison table really showed how a simple budget can explode when reality hits.
So how do you avoid these financial faceplants?
Due diligence is key. Test the soil before you buy pH, metals, percolation for septic. Go modular with solar, start smaller. Expand as you can afford it. Diversify income, maybe some remote work, plus some small-scale farming or agrotourism. Look into land contracts with contingencies, protects you if unforeseen issues arise. And have a buffer. 6-12 months of living expenses and savings is highly recommended. Prioritize land with some existing infrastructure if possible, even if it costs more up front. It can save huge headaches and expenses later.
Okay, let's circle back to livestock again, specifically sheep and their role in end-time scenarios mentioned in the hadiths.
Right, building on the ethics part, these texts suggest that during times of great upheaval, fitna, owning sheep and retreating with them to remote areas, mountains, places with rain is seen as a wise strategy for preserving one's faith and well-being.
Self-sufficiency as a means of navigating chaos.
Essentially, yes. Sheep become a symbol of reliance, sustenance, security, away from societal breakdown. But critically, the sources emphasize that the responsibilities don't go away. Zakat obligations still apply if the numbers are met. Ethical treatment is still paramount. There are warnings about neglecting these duties even, or especially in difficult times.
So it's not just about survival, but maintaining religious principles through self-reliance.
That seems to be the core message. It links practical self-sufficiency with spiritual preparedness and adherence to religious duties. Again, the specific story about sheep-eating scripture isn't considered authentic by major scholars, but the broader principle of responsible ownership and reliance in turmoil stands.
Okay, now for a very practical comparison. Sheep versus goats, a classic homesteader's dilemma.
It really is. They seem similar, but they fill different niches. Diet is a big one. Sheep are grazers. They eat grass, low stuff, perfect for pasture. Goats are browsers. They prefer leaves, twigs, brush, excellent for clearing overgrown land.
So match the animal to your land type.
Exactly. Behavior too. Sheep are generally more docile, stick together in flocks. Goats are more independent, curious, notorious escape. Artists need better fences. Meat and milk differ. Goat meat is leaner, milk is a different flavor. Sheep give you wool, usually need shearing. Goats mostly have hair, sheds.
What about health stuff? Any big differences?
Copper sensitivity is a key one. Sheep are very sensitive to too much copper. It's toxic to them. Goats actually need copper supplementation often. Opposite problem. Fencing needs differ too. Goats need taller, stronger fences. Reproduction windows vary. Good aging. Goats often have longer breeding seasons. And while both get parasites, sheep can be more prone to certain devastating stomach worms. Goats might be more susceptible to things like CAE, a viral disease.
So no clear winner, just different fits.
Pretty much. Got grassy fields and want wool? Sheep might be better. Got brushy land and want milk? Goats could be the ticket. Many homesteaders actually use both goats, clear the brush. Sheep follow up maintaining the pasture. Rotating them helps with parasite control too.
Okay. And what about how often they reproduce? Building up numbers matters for self-sufficiency.
Both are typically seasonal breeders, breed in fall, kid slams in spring. But goats often have a longer window, and some breeds can be managed for year-round kidding, though that takes more effort. Sheep are usually more strictly seasonal, though some breeds, like Dorsets, have longer seasons.
Gestation and litter size similar.
Gestation is very close, about 5 months for both. Getting 2 pregnancies a year is technically possible, but rare and hard on the animals in a low-input off-grid system. Litter size varies more by breed than species. Some sheep breeds, like those Iranian ones mentioned, are famous for twins, triplets, even quads. Dairy goats often twin, but triplets are maybe less common than in super prolific sheep. Goats can sometimes breed a bit younger, maybe 5-7 months if they're well grown, while sheep are usually more like 7-12 months.
So in a natural setting, probably similar output, maybe 1 to 2 offspring a year per female. But goats offer more flexibility for managed breeding.
That seems to be the gist. For sheer numbers quickly, you'd select for highly prolific sheep breeds or maybe dairy goats known for twinning.
All right, pulling it all together on livestock based on everything. What are the top overall choices for off-grid self-sufficiency?
The ones that repeatedly came up as strong contenders were adaptable, multi-purpose, and manageable. Rabbits are high on the list. Minimal space, breed super fast, lean meat, fantastic manure. Chickens, the classic for eggs, meat, bug control. Dual-purpose breeds are great.
Can't go wrong with chickens, usually.
Ducks are another good one. Often hardier than chickens, great foragers, big eggs, love slugs and snails. Muscovies and khaki Campbells are popular breeds. Quail, perfect for tiny spaces, grow incredibly fast, start laying eggs daily, very young. Need cages though.
Quail is interesting. What about slightly larger animals?
Goats, especially smaller breeds like Nigerian dwarfs, are excellent for milk, plus meat, and that brush clearing ability. Sheep, good for wool, milk, meat, especially hardy hair sheep breeds like Cattin that don't need shearing, or dual-purpose wool breeds like Dorset.
Any others worth considering, maybe with caveats?
Pigs can be amazing meat producers, very efficient converters of feed, especially foraging breeds like red wattles or large blacks. But strong fencing is non-negotiable, and odor can be a real issue if not managed well. Bees, fantastic for pollination, plus honey. Langstroth hives are common. Geese can be good watchdogs, help with weeding, provide meat. Toulouse, Emden, Chinese breeds were mentioned.
So key things to think about are feed independence, can they forage, breeding pairs, space needs, multiple uses.
Exactly, and starting small. For beginners, chickens and or rabbits are often the recommendation. Low risk, relatively fast reward. Then maybe add goats or ducks if you have the space and experience. Quail if space is really tight.
Okay, now back to plants. Top crops for self-sufficiency, focusing on calories and nutrition.
For pure calories and storage, potatoes are king. Highest calorie yield per square foot for many climates, store well. Corn, super versatile. Eat fresh, grind for meal, feed animals. Part of the Three Sisters. Dries well, winter squash. Pumpkins, butternut, etc. Long shelf life, packed with vitamins. Dry beans, protein powerhouse. Fix nitrogen in the soil, store forever. Sweet potatoes, great especially in warmer zones, drought tolerant, store well too.
Those are the big calorie staples. What about essential nutrients?
Leafy greens are vital. Kale and collards are nutritional champs, very cold hardy, some are even perennial. Cabbage stores well, great for sauerkraut, preservation plus probiotics. Root veggies, carrots, parsnips, cold tolerant, can store right in the ground over winter in some places. Planting them near onions can deter pests. Garlic and onions themselves, flavor, pest repellent, some medicinal uses, cure well for storage.
And perennials or low maintenance options, less work year after year.
Jerusalem artichokes, sunchokes came up. Grow almost anywhere, even poor soil, good prebiotic fiber. But warning, they can spread aggressively. Fruit trees and berry bushes, investment up front but yield for years. Choose disease-resistant varieties suited to your area. Grains like millet and sorghum are good choices for dry climates, drought-resistant, decent yields.
What about plant-based protein and fats?
Sunflower seeds are great for healthy fats, easy to grow, safe seeds for replanting. Peas are an early crop, provide protein, and can be dried. Quinoa and amaranth. Complete proteins, gluten-free, good for variety, but need to learn harvest timing. And remember, storage is key for all crops. Root cellars, dehydration, fermentation, master those techniques.
So for small spaces, maybe focus on potatoes, kale, beans, arid regions. Millet, sorghum.
That sounds like a good starting point.
Okay.
Pair staples with nutrient-dense greens, and definitely get some perennial fruits and herbs established for long-term, low-effort yields.
Okay, energy storage. Batteries are the default, but the sources looked at alternatives. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, beyond lithium and lead acid, compressed air energy storage, CAEE was one. Basically, use excess energy to compress air, store it, often underground, then release it to spin a turbine later.
Like a giant air tank.
Kind of. Pros, long lifespan, low maintenance. Cons need specific geology, like underground caverns. Efficiency's okay, maybe 50-70%. More common for grid scale, but small off-grid versions are being explored. Pumped hydro, the classic. Pump water uphill when you have extra power, let it flow down through a turbine when you need power.
Needs hills and water, though.
Exactly. Very site-specific. High efficiency, 70-85% proven tech, but high upfront cost and needs the right landscape, so usually not feasible for a single cabin. Thermal storage, storing heat, essentially, in molten salt or phase-change materials. Good for long duration, scalable. But converting heat back to electricity isn't super efficient, and corrosion can be an issue.
Okay. What else? Flywheels?
Flywheels store energy by spinning a heavy wheel really fast. Pros, instant power release, lasts for tons of cycles. Cons, discharges quickly, minutes, not hours. Expensive. Better for grid stabilization than long-term off-grid storage.
Any newer tech?
Solar flow batteries, SFBs, are interesting. They combine the solar panel with the flow battery. Can decouple energy storage from power output, potentially no degradation like regular batteries, but lower energy density right now. Cost needs to come down.
Hydrogen. Store energy by creating hydrogen gas.
Hydrogen's always talked about.
Yep. Pros. High energy density. Great for seasonal storage. Store sun for winter. Cons. Low round-trip efficiency. Making it and using it loses a lot of energy. High infrastructure costs.
Yeah.
Electrolyzers, storage tanks, fuel cell. And repurposing old EV batteries, second life batteries.
Using batteries from electric cars.
Right. Pros. Cheaper. Better for the environment than making new ones. Cons. Lower capacity. Managing the old battery management system, BMS, can be complex. Need to know what you're doing. So lots of options, but none are perfect replacements for standard batteries yet for most off-gridders.
That seems fair. CAES, or second life batteries, might work in specific cases. Pumped hydro and big CS are more grid scale. The others are either niche, flywheels, emerging SFBs, solid state, or have efficient site cost issues, hydrogen thermal. Batteries are still the main game for most home systems, but these alternatives are worth watching.
Okay. And finally, climate change. How does that impact off-grid life specifically?
It's a huge factor now. Microclimate management becomes even more critical. Frost pockets forming in unexpected places, wind tunnels causing damage like that South Africa avocado example. Solutions involve things like planting windbreaks, strategically using trees, or even special netting, HDPE shade nets, which can cut wind speed significantly. Mitigating frost with overhead sprinklers uses a lot of water though, or managing soil. Dark, moist soil holds more heat.
And bigger disasters, wildfires, floods.
Preparedness is key. Wildfire means creating defensible space clearing vegetation 3,100 feet around buildings, NFPA guidelines, using fire-resistant building materials. The California vineyard example showed how this can save structures. Flood prep involves things like building raised garden beds, using swales to direct water flow safely.
What about seasonal energy gaps, like heating in winter?
Need to accurately calculate heating needs for your space. Consider super efficient wood stoves like rocket mass heaters. Look at alternative systems too. Solar thermal for hot water can be very effective even in winter, like those sun-earth systems. Geothermal heat pumps are super efficient. COPA 3 to 4 can cut heating costs by half, but need significant electricity input, so a large renewable system is required. Ignoring these climate impacts costs money: frost damage, wildfire loss, higher fuel bills.
Any advanced strategies mentioned?
Yeah, using tech like 3D topography mapping to understand your specific microclimate. IoT sensors for real-time monitoring of soil moisture, wind, temperature, using specific cover crops like crimson clover to help soil retain heat. In fire zones, simple things like spark arresters on chimneys and storing firewood well away from the house are vital.
Okay. And circling back to water one last time for an off-grid cabin, specifically, what are the best water source options?
Drilled wells often come out on top for reliability, tapping deep, stable aquifers. Need a pump? Solar is ideal. Best drilled before you build. Natural springs are great if they're reliable year-round. Need to monitor flow, test quality religiously. Gravity-fed is perfect if the spring is uphill.
Rainwater.
Very effective if you get enough rain. Remember, the 620 gallons per inch per 1,000 acre-foot roof figure can be primary or supplemental. Always needs good filtration and purification. Sediment, carbon, UVRO. Needs gutters, pipes, tanks, surface water, creeks, rivers, ponds accessible if nearby, but needs pumping and thorough treatment for drinking. May be okay for non-potable uses. Can be seasonal, though.
And storage. Freezing protection.
Crucial considerations. Insulated tanks, burying pipes below the frost line, choosing the right pump solar, gravity fed if possible, constant water quality monitoring, and having backups. Multiple sources, like a well plus rainwater, offer the best resilience.
We've covered a ton, but the sources also highlighted key blind spots, things people often miss in planning. The pitfalls.
Yeah, these are the things that sneak up on you. Legal regulatory. Zoning rules you didn't know about. Water rights issues. How far away is the nearest ambulance? Infrastructure. Underestimation. Not having enough backup power, not enough water storage. 1,000 gallons is often minimum for 2 people. DIY septic systems failing. Skill gaps. We talked about medical, mechanical. Preservation, easy to overestimate your abilities. Social, psychological. The reality of isolation. Needing community support. Barter. Family stress if not everyone's on board. Financial missteps. Those hidden costs, unrealistic income ideas. Land traps. Access costs. Soil cleanup. Ecological issues. Invasive species taking over. Depleting your soil. Constant battles with wildlife. Climate realities, not understanding your microclimate, not prepping for fire flood, seasonal energy shortfalls, food production myths, underestimating livestock work, planting low-calorie crops, preservation failures, mobility aging. Can you physically do the work long-term? How do you age in place? Succession planning. Do your kids even want the place? And tech dependencies. You're still reliant on supply chains for solar panels, pumps, parts. Neat info tutorials aren't the same as mentorship. Security concerns.
Wow. That's a lot to potentially overlook. How do you mitigate these?
Start small, maybe a pilot phase. Get involved in community skill swaps before you need the skill. Design with modularity, easier to fix or replace parts. Take a permaculture design course for holistic thinking. Talk to your local agricultural extension office. They know regional challenges.
Okay, last big topic. Renewable energy for the cabin. Best sources.
Solar PV is the standard starting point. Scalable, fairly low maintenance. Needs batteries, less power on cloudy days. Wind turbines are a great supplement if you have consistent wind. Average 9 plus and plus. Can provide power 247 then? But noisy, need towers. Microhydro, fantastic if you have year-round flowing water with enough drop head. Reliable, consistent power, but very site-specific. Permitting can be tough, high initial cost.
So hybrid is often best.
Hybrid systems, solar plus wind plus storage, usually offer the best reliability by balancing seasonal differences. More complex, higher cost up front, though. Heat pumps are super efficient for heating cooling, but they draw a lot of power, so you need a robust renewable energy supply to run them effectively off-grid. Key things are battery storage, lithium or lead acid usually, having a backup generator, propane or diesel, and balancing cost versus resilience.
Solar as the baseline, add wind hydro if it makes sense, hybrid for max reliability.
That seems to be the general recommendation. Start with solar and batteries, assess your site for wind or hydro potential, and always have a non-renewable backup generator for emergencies or extended bad weather.
And just briefly, climate change again impacting growing seasons and energy needs directly.
Absolutely. It messes with timing, earlier springs, later frosts, weird rainfall, makes planting harvest harder. And extreme temps, heat waves, deep freezes mean you need more power for cooling or heating, straining your energy system, especially storage. You need to build in more buffer.
Phew. Okay, this has been incredibly thorough. A real deep dive into synthesizing all that information from your sources on off-grid self-sufficiency.
It really has. And the picture that emerges is, well, it's appealing, that idea of independence. But it demands serious planning, a ton of different skills, and a very realistic view of the challenges alongside the rewards. It's not a simple switch.
Hopefully this discussion gives everyone a much stronger foundation. You can revisit the source materials, focus on the areas most relevant to you, and know what questions to ask next. And maybe, as a final thought to take away from all this, looking at those potential blind spots, those unexpected long-term challenges, which one do you think poses the biggest risk to long-term resilience and well-being in an off-grid life? Something to really mull over based on your own circumstances? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
What do you call a chicken that lives off-grid? An extremist. Ha 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 ha. LOL. Asterisk. And that brings us to the end of this episode of the Off-Grid and Self-Sufficient Living Guide. We've walked through the essential systems, from turning sunlight into power and purifying water with more tech than a spy movie, to raising chickens, growing profitable crops, and preserving your harvest like a true prepper gourmet. But as we've learned, it's not just about solar, panels, and root cellars. Planning is key. Whether it's picking land with rich soil and reliable water, budgeting for those hidden costs, yes. Even the composting toilet parts, or preparing for challenges like wildfires, skill gaps, or local zoning laws that may or may not know you exist. Living off-grid is as much about mindset as it is muscle. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and remember, whether you're building a solar array or just trying to survive GTA wildlife, stay resilient, stay prepared, and most of all, stay off the grid.